Hey, Psychiatrist here with a video on weak auras for Death Knights. If you're like me, when you're playing Death Knights, a lot of times you don't take full advantage of Soul Reaper. Now, there's a lot of weak auras out there, and it's pretty simple to use either weak auras or power auras or tell me when to put something like this on the screen to remind you, hey, here's a little icon, you should be using Soul Reaper when your target is below a certain % health. The thing is, if you've played other classes with execute mechanics like a warrior or a hunter, those abilities, both execute and kill shot, will light up when the target is below that percentage health that you're supposed to be using it at. And I've always wished that Soul Reaper would do the same thing. I want it to light up when it's available and when my target is below that desired health percentage. So that's what this aura does. And in order to do that, what I have here is 3 different auras. Now, one of them is just to bounce a reminder. The other is to give me a cooldown when it's on cooldown when I've used it. However, the important part of it is that when I create one to trigger off of the status being usable, all right, so we've got, in this case, this is the bouncing one. It's not the aura or the display that's important here. It's that I've set an action to do a button glow, show, and then I've selected the button where I've bound, in this case, bartender, button bar 4, button 52, and I've chosen my Soul Reaper button. So if you download these, I'll export them. If you download them, this is the important part, is you're going to have to manually change this part of it to wherever you happen to have bound Soul Reaper. So this is one of the buttons on my gaming mouse, so that's why I had to choose this here. There might be a better way to do this. Maybe someone can leave a suggestion in the comments if there's a way to bind it to just Soul Reaper in general, regardless of where you put it. But this is the first part of it. Now, let me back up a little bit. I probably went a little fast there. The important part of this is that I have a trigger, all triggers, so there's 2 conditions here. The first trigger is that the status of the action is usable, and I've set that to be Soul Reaper, and that requires a valid target. The second trigger is, of course, the execute part of it, which is that my target's health, so I'm going status, health, target, and in this case I've said it's less than or equal to 48%. I'm running Unholy Death Knight, so it's usable at 45%, and I want to get that, I want to be able to use it about 48% so that when those 6 seconds expire, it'll hopefully be at 45% health. Get that little bit of an early warning. It's also got this nice animation if my eyes are up here on the screen and I haven't glanced down at my bars or don't notice the spell flash out of the corner of my eye. It's still nice to have the little bouncing animation as well. So that's set over here on the Animations tab, and it just says the type is preset bounce. But the important thing is that I have that button glow set up. Now, the next thing you got to do is you got to build a second one that will turn off the button glow when the target's above 48% health. So if you just build this one, what you will get is you'll target something that's below 48% health, and then if you target something else that's above that percent, it won't get rid of the flash. It won't get rid of the button glow. So if you want this to work just like an execute or a kill shot would, you really need to make this second one. It's pretty much the same in terms of the initial setup. In this case, I've created 2 triggers again. You don't have to do both, but let me show you what I've done. The first is, and the most important one to me, is that the status, health, so same exact thing we did a minute ago, the percent is above 48%, right? And if you're having trouble with your less than or equal to, remember the alligator wants to eat the larger number. So he's facing towards the health percent because that's going to be larger than 48%. So that as long as the target that I select is above 48%, the action I want to take is I want button glow, hide, and then again I select where I've bound Soul Reaper. So this is saying turn off the button glow if I retarget and it's something that's above 48%. Okay. The other thing to do is notice as I've done greater than. The other one I believe I had a less than or equal to. So this is 48 and above, above 48. The other one is 48 and below. The other thing that you can do, and this is optional, you don't necessarily. This is kind of a personal preference one. I also have it so that if Soul Reaper is not active, it's not usable, meaning I don't have the runes to do this, or Soul Reaper is on cooldown, right? It's not going to be lit up. So what that means in effect is it's going to flash every time it becomes available off of cooldown or because my runes are up and the target is below 48%. I'm in that execute phase. That means I'll get a new flash. The alternative, if I didn't have this, would mean that as long as the target is below 48% health, the first time that it becomes usable, it will stay lit up. It'll stay glowing throughout that entire execute phase as long as I continue targeting the same enemy. So it's just a personal preference there. If you want that thing to light up once and stay lit up as long as you're on the boss and he's below 48% health, then don't do both of these triggers. The alternative is if you want it to re-flash to kind of re-remind you, hey, it's back up, boom, then you should have that second one on there. The other one I have here is just a cooldown, which just gives you a nice, countdown of the cooldown of Soul Reaper. Completely optional, but I will go ahead and export all of these, and you can choose to use them how you like. Next thing I'll show you guys is a little example gameplay. I jumped into LFR and killed some trash and Tectus, and should captured a couple of examples of me target swapping, so you can see what this looks like. So here we are killing some trash in LFR. You should be able to notice that my target's below the percentage of health, and there we go, just lit up because it was on cooldown before. That's why it's not lit up at the moment. There we go, lighting up. So it looks just like any other proc would, right? So if you're coming over to Unholy Death Knight from the World of Frost, like I am, this is one of the reasons I wanted to do this, coming over from the Frost world where you're used to things like Obliterate, proccing on Killing Machine, or Howling Blast proccing off of Rhyme, it just makes it an easier transition to remember to hit that ability when it lights up, and you kind of just have that muscle memory of, oh, click the thing that's flashing, right? So here we go, it's approaching that magic number, and there we go, lit up, and I was on it, pressed it right away, and now it's the glow is gone. There's a second one, pressed it right away. And now what we'll do is we'll just fast forward through this trash and take a look at the boss himself. So here's Tectus, and he's about to hit 48%. He's below the number, and there's the flash. So one thing that I'll go ahead and do is, before I export this information so that it's shareable, I'll make it so that there's another set of 3 that work for blood presence or blood specialization, as well as frost specialization, since it's a different number for Soul Reaper there, right? You want to be using it below 35% on both of those classes. So I'll go ahead and make another set of those so that, hey, regardless of what kind of Blood Knight or Death Knight you're running, you'll be able to leverage these. So you don't get to use it too much on a fight like this. It is nice just because there's a bunch of targets that are at different amounts of health, so you can kind of see it in action. But where it's really going to shine is on those longer fights where you're going to have enemies that are going to stay in that 45% and under health range for a large percentage of the fight, right? In theory, about half the fight, you'd hope. And those are the ones where it's going to be really important because you're going to get off a lot of casts of Soul Reaper if you're remembering to press that button. So when you're doing Butcher or maybe Kargath or Korog, Twin Ogron, right, because they're a shared health pool, pretty much anything but this fight, I feel like. Bracken would probably be pretty good as well. It's going to be very, very helpful to have it so that for those 2 or 3 or 4 minutes, however long the fight is, you're going to be remembering to get as many casts as possible out by having this light up. So again, to quickly recap, don't forget to change the button to go ahead and go hit choose button and change it to wherever you have Soul Reaper bound, so you get that reminder. You can choose to keep the animations if you want. You could hide those off somewhere else on the screen if you don't like it bouncing around, if all you care about is the button glow. Change the health percentage if you want to go from 50% or 49%, whatever you like. You could also make it so that it stays lit up as long as that health value is under that value, right? As long as their health percent is under that value. You don't have to make it so that it hides when it's on cooldown or hides when you don't have the resources for it like I do. So totally personal preference. Use it how you like. Hopefully this was helpful. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a comment, like it, subscribe if you would. I'll go ahead and add more videos as I find other things that are going to be useful for the Death Knight community or just useful in general.